What is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? Welcome back here today to a JustBallin YouTube exclusive. And for today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about the 2025 NBA draft, and we're going to be reacting to Bleacher Report's new 2025 NBA mock draft. And I feel like we haven't talked too much about the 2025 draft, so I'm excited to do this today just to kind of really get familiar with some of these prospects that I'm so excited to watch this year. Either it's in international play like Rocco Zikarsky for the NBL, or Hugo Gonzalez in Spain, Nolan Traore in France, or we're going to have an elite college class this year. None of these top guys are really coming from the overtime elite or basically the G League Ignite anymore. So a lot of these guys are going to be playing collegiate basketball, and 4 of the top 5 guys will be. So I'm very hyped for that. I'll leave a link to this in the description below if you want to check out the article for yourself. Shout out to Jonathan Wasserman, their main draft guy, and then make sure you sub to the JustBallin podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Links are in the description. I'm excited to be a part of Blue Wire Studios now over there, which is going to be very exciting things going forward on the podcast platform. So make sure you guys sub there because you'll get more audio exclusives, including my positional rankings, those breakdowns. Probably going to do a mock draft as well on there as well. So make sure you check that out. So Brooklyn Nets, number 1 pick, Cooper Flagg. I think on paper, they're definitely going to be the worst team going into next year, and that's before the deadline where they're probably going to move on from a couple of like Cam Johnson, Nick Claxton, maybe not Claxton, but more Day'Ron Sharpe, Dorian Finney-Smith, Dennis Schroeder. Those guys could definitely get moved at the deadline. So this team is probably going to end up with the worst record. Now, if history is going to repeat itself in any way, that means they're probably not going to get the number 1 overall pick, because we've seen teams like the Pistons last year be the worst team in the NBA and end up with the 5th overall pick. And it could be... It could be very disappointing. So I don't want Nets fans to get their hopes up. Like, you want to be at the bottom, yes, this year, but it's not a guarantee. It's really a luck factor, and there's nothing you can do but basically cross your fingers and hope that you are going to land with the ping pong balls and get the number 1 pick, because Cooper Flagg can be a great talent to turn your franchise around. Now, for the Nets, Cooper Flagg immediately there, I don't know how that's going to be. I mean, we're going to have a whole year of college evaluation to look at this and how he would fit. He's not going to make you a playoff team right away. I mean, Wemby wasn't even able to make the Spurs a playoff team. They were still one of the worst teams last year with Wemby being healthy in his rookie season. And if this Nets team is roughly similar, like if their top 3 are Cam Thomas, Cooper Flagg, and Nick Claxton, that team is still probably going to be the worst team on paper, maybe in the 2026 season, which is okay. There's obviously some studs at the top there as well, but Flagg is going to immediately impact your defense. He's going to immediately, I think, be a good floor spacer for you, and the guy plays with a lot of competitiveness. He can get downhill, he can attack the rim, and he's just going to be, I think, an elite defender out of the gate. We saw him hold his own for Team USA in like that scrimmage footage, which is insane because he's going up against some of the best players in the NBA, basically the best players in the NBA, at least on the USA side of things. So yeah, Cooper Flagg's still a 1.1 for me. Tier 1 player going into next year's season. He's my only tier 1 guy right now. And then I have like 4 or so guys in tier number 2 on paper. But yeah, this should be number 1 unless Cooper Flagg ends up shooting 20% from the field and 20% from 3 throughout the first half of the year. Then maybe we could talk about bumping him down. Him on the Nets, though, I mean, I would love to see him in Washington. Him and Sarr could be fun defensively because of the athleticism, the quickness between the two. There could be some other fun teams as well, like maybe something works out. I'm trying to think, like, I don't know if I really want to see him in Portland, but obviously Portland could benefit from getting him. I mean, Charlotte would be sick. We'll see if he could end up in Chicago. Are they going to be that bad next year? Utah, potentially. Him in marketing could be fun. Wow, okay, he is Dylan Harper going number 2 to the Washington Wizards. I do have Nolan Traore slightly ahead of Dylan Harper right now. The Wizards, if Flagg goes number 1, could be in position to still take another guard. I mean, I don't think Jordan Poole is in your long-term plans. Malcolm Brogdon may not even be on the roster after the deadline. So you have Bob Carrington, who honestly could play off with Dylan Harper very well. I think Dylan Harper is going to probably be a little bit better of a playmaker at Rutgers this year than Bob Carrington was last year at Pitt. We'll see how consistent Harper's shot is going to be, but that could be some really fun 2-man games between Harper and Carrington in your backcourt. That's going to provide a lot of quickness, a lot of energy on the defensive end, and potentially some really good floor spacing abilities. So I'm fine with Washington going, yeah, Harper here, and I think like Carrington, I mean, he was the 14th overall pick in a weak draft. I don't think he's been projected to be your franchise point guard. Like, yes, you would love that, but he's got to hit his, like, I think highest percentile outcome if he's going to be that for Washington. But he could be more of a crafty scorer off the bench. And I think Harper could be somebody they're looking at. I think there would be maybe some positional questions if they went Ace Bailey with Bilal and Sarr there, if Sarr's not going to be a true center. And I don't know if Khaman Maluach or Rocco Zikarsky is going to play well enough to end up being a top 3 pick. We'll see, because they could look at center as well. But yeah, Washington's probably going to be in there right away. Portland, number 3. It's crazy. Like, Portland could end up with the 3rd worst record in the league, and they have the 3rd. I think they're tied with the Nets for the lowest win total, for the second lowest win total, or excuse me, tied with the Wizards for the second lowest win total behind the Nets, which is crazy because this team has a lot of talent on paper. With Scoot, Simon, Sharp, Denny, Grant, Time Lord, DeAndre Ayton. I don't know. I just think, and like Donovan Clingan, new draft pick, and I guess they're going to have 3 centers. Like, why hasn't Rob Williams been traded? I guess they want to see if he's healthy. But yeah, Portland could be in line to take a wing in Ace Bailey. Now I'm like, you got to move on from Anthony Simons, and we could still have I guess, Scoot at the 1, Sharp at the 2, and Ace Bailey at the 3 type rotation. Like, that's fine with me. Then maybe Grant is still on their roster. We'll see if they're able to move him, or it's probably going to be Denny Avdia at the 4, and then Donovan Clingan at the 5 is something it could look like in 2 to 3 years, which is definitely something to get exciting about. I wonder how Bailey's shot creating is going to be. I think that's one of his strengths coming out of high school, and how he has been scouted. He's got great size, a good pull-up jumper. I want to see if the 3-point shot's going to be consistent. I want to see the motor on the defensive end, and I want to see the athleticism at attacking the rim. A lot of question marks for Bailey's game, but he does have all the intangibles and the draft and the prospect pedigree to be the number 1 player in this class. Like, that's not out of the equation. So it's a big year for Bailey at Rutgers, and he could be maybe the Jeremy Grant replacement in a year. Detroit going VJ Edgecombe at 4. Okay, interesting. Maybe I'm a little bit higher on Nolan Traore than Wasserman is right now. Edgecombe would be really fun next to Cade Cunningham, and that would make sense too. I think Nolan Traore would benefit as the lead ball handler on whatever team he's on. Man, if he ends up in San Antonio. I mean, maybe that's what he has mocked here. But Edgecombe could be fun in Detroit because this dude plays with a lot of excitement to his game. He is uber athletic. He's one of the more athletic players in this class. He's going to throw down some insane dunks this year at Baylor. He can be a 3-level scorer. He's been a little streaky, I feel like, this past year for Lou High in New York. In high school. Could be a little bit streaky as a shooter, and I do wonder if that's going to be the constant, like, Baylor guard trend we saw with Keontae George 2 years ago, Jacoby Walter last year. Like, could we see that with VJ Edgecombe this year? Potentially, but I think he has a lot of potential to be maybe a Shaedon Sharpe level prospect this year going into the 25 draft, and that could be somebody that's going to eventually replace Jaden Ivey in the backcourt with Cade Cunningham and could complement Cade a little bit better than Ivey has, even though they drafted Ivey to pair him up with Cade. Whoa, Drake Powell, number 5 to Utah. Now, this is where I would have Nolan Traore. So this is what I disagree with in his preseason things. And hey, in a couple months, Nolan Traore could just be an inefficient shooter, turn the ball over a ton. Defense may not be where you want it to be in France right now, and he may not even be projected as a top 10 pick. Like, we saw Nikola Topic fall off. He was somebody that I was okay going to 2 to Washington after the lottery, and then he ended up going, where did he go? He ended up going, why am I blanking on where OKC ended up picking? It was Matas 11, OKC picked 12, right? Yeah, so we went 12. So that could be something that happens with Traore. I think Utah is still looking for their point guard right now. I don't know if that's going to be Collier long term. I don't know if Keontae George is going to be a full-time point guard, like franchise point guard as a lead initiator. Could be better as an off-ball player. We're getting another scorer in Utah, and I'm fine with this. I'm really excited to watch Drake Powell and Ian Jackson next year. Both of these guys should be a lot of fun at UNC, playing off of each other with their athleticism and their ability to get downhill. And I'm going to love Elliot Cadeau coming back to UNC, setting these guys up. It's going to be a very fun offense in North Carolina this year, and I'm excited to see Drake Powell because he has, I think, a lot of boomer bust preseason hype to him. He may be someone that's a sophomore, like he stays another year at UNC, or it doesn't work out, but there's also a chance he could outperform Ace Bailey and VJ Edgecombe this year. And I'm excited to watch him go up against like Cooper Flagg at Duke. Like last year, Duke, I mean, like they were a fine team to watch. Like you got to watch Kyle Philpowski and Jared McCain, but then versus UNC, you weren't really watching a lot of draft prospects go up against each other. You're watching Armando Bacot, Elliot Cadeau, RJ Davis, and like Cormac Ryan. And I guess Harrison Ingram ended up getting drafted. Go up against Duke, who had Philpowski and McCain, but man, I'm so excited to watch Cooper Flagg, Khaman Maluach, and all that talent at Duke go up against just all this talent at UNC this year with the incoming freshmen of Powell and Ian Jackson, and then the returning guys as well. It's going to be a lot of fun this year to watch UNC and Duke, I will say. So he's Nolan Traore going to the Bulls. I mean, this is a great fit for Chicago, getting your franchise point guard who has the size. Maybe could take a year or two to develop. We'll see what his progression looks like this year, but could be somebody that if Josh Giddey, that experiment doesn't work out, you don't view Kobe White as a long-term point guard and maybe as an off-ball shot creator or secondary scorer. You could look for Traore to be your franchise point guard. I think 6 is the floor for him right now, and I think point guard can be held to a premium in this league, especially if you can get your franchise one, and I think Traore is right up there with Scoot as hype I have for somebody in their preseason, like of their year they're going to get drafted. So I'm very high on him as a prospect, and I would not be shocked if he's number 2 behind Flagg at the end of the year. I guess Dylan Harper obviously has that hype as well. Rocco Zikarsky, Charlotte at 7. I kind of love this. Zikarsky is going to be a wild card this year in the NBL. He is someone that could be an elite shot blocker, a very plus rebounder, and a good ball handler for somebody that is basically 7 feet tall. And I think he's going to be NBA ready defensively next year. And if this is a big year for Mark Williams, if he does not show that he can be available on the floor and proven to be healthy and someone that is going to make strides on the defensive end. They don't need Mark Williams to average 15 points a night outside of like alley-oops and put back dunks, right? Like he's going to be the pick and roll partner for Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball, and he just work out well with Tre Johnson. But if he doesn't make strides defensively and with his health and showing that he can stay healthy, I think Zikarsky could be very well in play to be the first center off the board and go to Charlotte at 7. So I do not mind that, especially if you can end up spacing the floor a little bit. We'll see though. I don't know if that's going to come. Toronto going Tre Johnson at 8. Okay. I think they're a team that could also look at Khaman Maluach here. Showed out for South Sudan in the Olympics, especially in that exhibition game against Team USA. Tre Johnson is going to be a very fun player next year at Texas. Could be one of the better shooters in this top 10. There's going to be some athleticism, some good ball handling ability. Texas has had an interesting track record recently, especially with perimeter players. Guys like maybe Dylan Mitchell didn't work out a ton, Kobe Brown, but maybe he was more of a big. I think it'll be an exciting year, though, for Tre Johnson playing in now SEC basketball, no longer in the Big 12. Kasparis, I've seen a couple, film tapes on him so far, and I'm excited to watch him because he looks so skilled coming over. I do wonder how it's going to be for him playing at Illinois in the Big Ten, coming over from Lithuania. And Kasparis Yakushanis, I hope I'm saying that right. I'm going to learn it throughout the year. He looks fun, man. He does. He could definitely be a wild card in this draft. I think he could be like a fringe top 5 prospect right now. And I'm very excited to see how he looks at Illinois this year, which has a very new roster and a lot of turnover from their team last year. Asa Newell here going to San Antonio. Seems a little high. He was kind of I guess, out of the spotlight at Montverde Academy last year because you had Flagg and Liam McNeeley and Derek Queen. And Newell was kind of like that fourth man there. I think at times he also came off the bench for Montverde. It'll be interesting to see how he develops at Georgia this year. Interesting with San Antonio going a big man, and it's not Khaman Maluach, but they do probably believe that he could be a complimentary piece to Wemby at this point. But I think Ian Jackson's still on the board. I would look at him here. Jalil Bethea out of Miami. Hugo Gonzalez, Egor Demin, BYU. So he is Hugo Gonzalez here, 11 to Oklahoma City. That'd be fun. Just him as a crafty scorer. I don't know. I would have liked OKC to add another, not like Jalen Williams because it's very tough to find him, but somebody that you can rely on to create their own shot in the half court, and that could be a second unit player. And maybe that's Dylan Jones in a year from now, right? But Hugo would be a lot of fun in Oklahoma City. That's getting me excited. So they're gonna have the Clippers pick, and if they're the Clippers last year had the Rockets pick in the lottery, and they were in the Western Conference quarterfinals. There's a chance, or Western Conference semifinals. There's a chance they give another lottery pick and be the 1 seed in the Western Conference if the Clippers don't make the playoffs, which is crazy. At 12, we have Houston, Kon Knueppel. This is their first round pick. I do think, forget if it's a swap with the Clippers here, there's a chance they may not get it. I wonder if he's going to be someone that is going to be in the draft actually in 2025. There's a lot of mouths to feed in Duke this year, at Duke this year, so I wonder if he's going to be involved as much because, like I mentioned, you have Khaman Maluach in the big man spot. You do have a couple other Duke freshmen that may be in this mock draft, including Cooper Flagg, who we talked about. You have Tyrese Proctor returning. There could be not enough shots for Knueppel this year, but we'll see. Houston could be a fun fit. I have to dive into the tape a little bit more about him. Colin Murray-Boyles here. I was wondering where he was going to end up. He's a little bit of an undersized big man. He is a sophomore, the first second year guy we're going to talk about, which is exciting. There's a lot of good freshmen in this class. His main, selling point is his defense and his switchability on that end. He can block shots. He'll get in the passing lanes. He can guard multiple positions. Good post defender and a nice inside presence as well. And him playing with Trae Young would be great for his development. And I think right now I like him over Asa Newell, unless he wows me at Georgia to play next to Wemby at the 4 spot for sure. And he can help out that team defensively. Liam McNeeley going to Golden State. Oh, I would love that so much. I mean, this is just the stereotypical Warrior shooting. Steph, Clay, Buddy Hield now. Let's just get Liam McNeeley, who has a good chance on being the best shooter in this draft. He was great as a complimentary shooter last year from Montverde Academy, playing alongside Cooper Flagg there. I'm surprised, Derek Queen was mentioned after Asa Newell, but Liam McNeeley to Golden State would be so fun playing alongside Steph Curry. I mean, maybe there's going to be some defensive issues, but him this year is going to be a joy to watch at UConn. I wonder if he's going to be used more in the offensive game than an Alex Caravan who's coming back. Caravan may be the leading scorer on that team, but I think McNeely's going to make a good impact as a freshman and good enough where he could be a lottery pick next year. Egor Demin, BYU. Kevin Young, the new BYU head coach, was able to recruit him to come here from Russia, like where he's from, and play collegiate basketball. And with Demin and Yakushanis, like that is really exciting for the game, and obviously NIL could play a part in that. I know there's some weird things if you're not like a U.S. resident. I think there was some things with Zach Edey, but you could still make money playing collegiate basketball, and Egor Demin's going to be a lot of fun at BYU. Somebody kind of like Hugo Gonzalez, but also not like him, but he does have a crafty style of play, good size, could be a good defender next year, and someone that I think could also be very efficient as well. Not like Reed Shepard efficiency, but I think could be a fun player. Jalil Bethea going to New Orleans at 16. Eventually, McCollum's not going to be on this team anymore. Brandon Ingram may not be on this team anymore. They're going to need some scorers off the bench, and I think Bethea right now is very close to Drake Powell, who they had going 5, and Tre Johnson, who went in the top 10 as well. Could be fun at New Orleans. Atlanta getting Noah Essengay from France. Like Colin Maury Boyles, this could be a nice complementary piece to Trae Young. He's going to take a little bit of time to develop. I wouldn't be shocked if he gets drafted averaging, I don't know, 6 points next year where he plays in Germany, but we'll see. But I think he's someone that could be a good slasher and cutter and just a solid defender in this league, but someone that's more suited to be in an off-ball role. Khaman Maluach, there we go, 18 to the Pacers. I mean, I don't know if I love him going to Indiana. They're going to re-sign Miles Turner. Maybe he does replace Isaiah Jackson. Maybe they get priced out on him. They got priced out on Jalen Smith. They have James Wiseman, who Maluach could easily beat out. And yeah, maybe they can't afford Isaiah Jackson, who is going to be a free agent soon from being in the 2021 draft. And obviously they're paying Siakam and Nembhard and Halliburton, Nesmith, Mathurin will eventually maybe need a new deal. And then Jarris Walker, whose contract's ascending. So Maluach could be the backup center, and he is going to be an intriguing prospect to watch at Duke. This is definitely the lowest I've seen him in any mocks. I think I've seen him top 10, like in every mock, basically. Donavan Freeman, freshman out of Syracuse. Okay, I've heard good things about Donavan Freeman. Going to Memphis here, a little bit surprising. Gotta dive more into him. Don't know too much about him right now, but definitely somebody I'm going to keep an eye on, and that could be a typical Memphis Grizzlies pick. Houston getting Will Riley here out of Illinois, so the second Illinois player, a team that should be very fun to watch. I'm very excited to watch Illinois and Arkansas. I do like Boogie Fland a ton, and I think he should be a top 20 pick in these preseason mocks, but Illinois is definitely going to be a team to watch next year for sure. 21, Derrion Reid out of Alabama. Had a good game in the McDonald's All-American game. Going to Orlando here could fit their mold of just defensive first and someone that could grow into a physical big man body. That could be some nice step for Orlando going forward. Michael Ruzic from, I believe, Croatia. I've heard some things about him. Got to dive into this film. So what I usually do, I'll dive deep into the college guys like first, and then throughout the season, I'll dive into really just the top international guys. Like last year, there was such a big presence on Salon, Reese Shea, and Alex Sarr. So I was watching those guys a ton. And for this year, like I'm definitely going to be watching a ton of Rocco Zikarsky at the NBL because that footage is actually pretty easy to come by. Nolan Traore, Egor Demin, and Hugo Gonzalez, at least to start off the year. But like Ruzic, I'm going to be definitely excited to look into, but could be in play for Utah at 22. It feels like they've been drafting a lot of big men. Carter Bryant, Arizona. I actually kind of like him in the preseason more than Asa Newell, and they have him going 23. We'll see how he is at Arizona this year. A lot can change up to the 25 draft. We have Josan Seinan going to the Mavericks here, which could be a nice point guard that they could develop going forward. I wonder if he's going to be more like not a one and done player. Like he could transfer out of Arizona State next year, or he could come back, but I just would be kind of surprised unless he really exceeds expectations that he's in the draft next year. Isaiah Evans, another mouth to feed at Duke, going to the Orlando Magic here at 25. This is the pick from the Aaron Gordon trade. I'm excited to watch him as well, and I think he could be more involved in this Duke offense than Kon by the end of the season. Like, that's 4 Duke players we've had go in this first round mock draft. Dig Pate, I'm actually excited to watch him a ton because he, I thought, would have been a first round pick in this most recent draft if he became draft eligible, but he was in that Scoot Henderson mold at the G League Ignite. Was basically like a 2-year deal. Like, you're going to play basically, I guess it's foregoing your senior year at high school and then playing what would be your freshman year of college for the Ignite. Obviously, the Ignite folded. He's going to be playing for the Mexico City G League team this year, which is going to be cool, and I think he's going to be a first-round pick. Kwame Evans, another sophomore player. It's like the second one we've talked about, which is crazy for this incoming freshman class. 27 to the Thunder. Could be a nice hustle guy, run up and down the floor off the bench. Maybe replaces Kenrich Williams in that role down the line. Ian Jackson, 28 to Brooklyn via the Knicks. I don't think so. I think either I don't know. I think if 28 is not going to happen for Ian Jackson, I think he's going to excel at UNC this year, where he's going to be a borderline top 10 pick, or if he's going to be disappointing enough where he's projected to go around 28. I think he's just going to stay another year or transfer. Maybe it's a Walker Kessler thing. Maybe it's a Caleb Love thing that we've seen guys elevate their stock a little bit, even though Love didn't go, but Walker Kessler did when he transferred from UNC to Auburn. Like, that would be something that happens, I think, if Ian Jackson is disappointing enough to go 28. I think he has all the potential in the world to be better than Powell, better than Bethea, better than Tre Johnson. I have those guys in kind of like the same tier right now. 29, Ben Seraph, going to Brooklyn. I have not watched him yet. I will dive into him, but everybody on Twitter has been telling me to go and dive into the film on him, and I'm excited. I definitely will, because, yeah, you guys were mentioning how he killed it at the under-18s, the European Championships. He averaged 28 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. I mean, Brooklyn's going to have 3 first-round picks. They're going to have a fun young core next year. And then Boston getting Alex Karaban at 30. They took Baylor Shireman, an older player, last year or this year, and then they can get Alex Karaban, which would be really cool. So that is the first 2025 mock draft that I've reacted to, and I am so excited about this class. This class is way more exciting than it was in 2024, even though I think there's going to be a lot of good role players from 2024. A lot of fun talent to evaluate in the 2025 class. I hope you guys did enjoy this YouTube exclusive of the Just Ballin podcast. Make sure you check out the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Link in the description for my mock draft over there, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.